weeks of intensive preparations to bring everyone together, create all those networking opportunities ahead of us. A couple of updates. We have a dedicated app for B2B meetings and special meeting space right outside this room, around the corner. Experience sharing and learning are very much at the heart of this event, which is why we have created lots of additional opportunities for you. You also have lunch vouchers, and unlike so many conferences out there, lunch is not served at any specific hour, but you just choose when you want to have it between 11 and 5 p.m. So make yourself comfortable and use the vouchers. And every great conference makes sure we have a bit of fun scheduled also. This is why we have a banquet, CEBioForum Awards 2024. We want to highlight the most outstanding brands and scientists and names in this industry. And rumor has it, after each awards ceremony, there is a party somehow organically evolving from the award ceremony. And now, last but not least, I would very much like to thank all of the partners and sponsors of the 2024 edition. You can see their names, and you will be seeing their names all around this space. So once again, thank you to all of them for joining us. Without their support, it would not be able for us to deliver this event at the kind of quality that best reflects the respect we have for all of you. Without further ado, allow me to welcome Magdalena Kurczycka and Robert Mikulski, the very people who made this happen. Welcome them with applause, please. Hello, hello. You would think it's safer for you because you don't have a mic, and that would imply you will be not saying anything on this stage. That would be so wrong. So why this event? Why does it matter today to organize conferences like this, other than networking, obviously?
Well, we definitely need to highlight the importance of biotechnology sector and how it is, to show how it's growing and how it's flourishing to everyone, and to also to enable networking between various key players of the sector. So
the network is the crucial. Relations are network, and the relations bring everything between a people. So, and everything what this bring between a people brings to our businesses, relations, everything.
And I guess no one in this room needs reminding how important biotechnology is today, not to mention how important it's going to be tomorrow. No doubt. I mean, it still competes with the likes of AI, but I'm sure biotechnology is not so far away.
But you can combine two of them.
And we will.
We not compete. We are making, the surface where we can cooperate together. That this is sometimes when we are thinking about the competing, but this is not the way.
They call it a synergy effect, don't they, ladies and gentlemen? Synergy effect. Anything we would like to add at the outset?
Yeah.
Okay, you go first.
Did you see the sun outside? How the beautiful weather is today, and so Magda has organized this with her contact with the universe. So the weather is beautiful. So the surface for conference is also beautiful. So.
And we have a banquet tonight, which is the very reason despite the great weather outside, we're going to keep you inside this room till late hours in the evening, ladies and gentlemen.
But I would like to add my sincere gratitude for all of you to be here, for all the special guests from ministry and abroad. And I'm very, very looking forward that you will enjoy this event and make the most of it, like squeeze like a lemon. So it will be the most beneficial event for you ever.
Yeah, that's the part of my job I didn't mention so far. I will be making sure we squeeze our speakers on this stage so that you get as much value from this event as possible. Thank you very much. And once again, applause, please. It was quite an effort. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Deputy Minister Jacek Tomczak, Deputy Minister at the Ministry of Economic Development and Technology, kindly agreeing to join us to officially inaugurate this event. Please welcome the Minister with applause, please. Please join us. Would you prefer a handheld microphone or the podium, whichever makes you comfortable?
Honorable ladies and gentlemen, along with digital technologies, biotechnology is one of the driving forces behind the modernization of our industry. Thanks for the universality of these technologies is applicable to various industrial sectors such as pharma, chemicals, and synthetics. Biotechnology is key to effectively responding to the challenges facing our economy, such as easing climate changes. With the increasing role of biotechnology in the economy, we are seeing measures to support the further development of the sector. The European Commission also recognized the sector potential, and on March 20, it published a declaration of 8 actions the Commission will take to strengthen the sector. The Polish biotechnology market in 2020 was worth more than 1 to 2 billion zloty. We count on intensive development and will make every effort to give the development a solid foundation. Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much, Minister. As they say, short and succinct. That was Jacek Tomczak, Deputy Minister, the Minister of Economic Development and Technology, here welcoming you all. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, BioForum is member of Europa Bio. It's important for us to be an active part of EU-wide future of tech conversation, also in view of the Polish presidency in 2025. We have today joining us Claire Skentelbery, the Managing Director of Europa Bio. She has kindly agreed to reflect on the importance of the future of biotech. Claire, join us. Claire, I did promise an improvised warm-up question for you.
Okay,
You remember?
go for it.
You remember? Completely unrehearsed. We are going to have lots of unrehearsed questions. So you live everything biotech every day. You study it. You do your own research work, I would presume, possibly. So my question would be your number one association about the next 3 years of biotech in Europe. What will be the number one thing that's on your mind?
I think what I want to see in the next 3 years is that biotechnology really takes a significant step forward in its ability to deliver on a commercial and significant scale. We talk a lot about amazing science, and it's always amazing, but what Europe needs to do is make sure that it is completely in the global race for how biotechnology is accessible to citizens, whether it's medicines, whether it's more sustainable products and processes. This is the time. The science is never the bottleneck. It's always the pathway to how it makes a change.
I'm sure we couldn't agree more on that one. The stage is yours. Enjoy.
Thank you. So thank you for my spontaneous question, and I will introduce myself to you now. My name is Claire Skentelbery. I am the Director General of Europa Bio, a Brussels-based organization, but really one that champions biotechnology all over the world. And while my slides arrive, I will just introduce myself a little bit more. So we've already talked a little bit about how science is always amazing, but what we really need to do is ensure that science makes an impact. And as innovators in the room, you work with amazing technologies every day and have probably spent a lot of your careers developing them. But of course, you don't have a product until somebody buys it, or it makes a difference to somebody at a scale that can be really measured. And we've already said that all science is amazing. And if I may be so bold, it's not what you have, it's what you do with it that makes the difference. And biotechnology is a frontier technology. It relies on an amazing pathway through to its destination, be that a patient, be that large-scale manufacturing, and it has a number of actors involved in it. The pathway through industry is absolutely vital for biotechnology to deliver on its promise. You have amazing small companies that really are the frontier keepers for technologies. You have amazing global stakeholders such as Novartis, who we will hear from later, who make the difference in amplifying amazing technologies to as many people as possible. It's all supported by amazing expert service providers and hospitals and clinics and CROs. None of what we see in our lives today would be available without the amazing community around it. And it's really the pathway through to patients and products and services that tells me where we need to ask the questions. It's how do we enable this to happen as best possible. So I'm going to give you a little introduction to EuropaBio. I'm just going to check where my slide. Do I just ask for the next slide, or do I have a beeper? Thank you very much. Okay. So I will give you a little bit of an introduction to EuropaBio, and then I will talk about how we try to help move biotechnology on, and your critical role as we stand here running up to the Polish presidency in 2025. So we're a cross-sectoral industry association. We are driven by our members. And what we do is we champion biotechnology and biomanufacturing. And our key aim there is to make a practical world in which your biotechnology can be delivered through to its destination. We have three main areas of activity. The first one is to ensure that biotechnology can be delivered within Europe. It is all about creating the correct legislative and regulatory framework that allows your science to turn into invested and scaled and proven technologies that people can use. This is all about what we do. We also make sure that biotechnology is seen and recognized, because we know that it's a complex technology area. We probably love to start conversations from the technology forward, and obviously not everybody can understand what biotechnology does. So it's our job to help inform policymakers in particular at all different levels on how biotechnology works and what's important to help it deliver. And finally, biotechnology cannot be delivered without an amazing framework of skills and resources in place. We know everywhere in the world it's having significant demographic changes, which impacts the number of people coming into the workforce, impacts the potential availability to scientists and experts needed to deliver biotechnology. So we talk about how we can build talent all over Europe. We talk about how we can ensure that innovation is protected so that it can seek investment to deliver what it has to promise. And we make sure that the innovation can be delivered as widely as possible. So we work at regional, national, European, and global level to make sure that biotechnology is seen, that it can progress, and it has the capability to do so. And we do this through a number of activities. We have three amazing councils through which our members sit. We have a healthcare council, an industrial biotechnology council, and a national associations council. All of these people within these councils are the engine of our advocacy work. We understand from them what our priorities are for biotechnology and what are the key bottlenecks that we must address. And we will then work with policymakers, unions, NGOs to make sure that the world in which biotechnology grows is a concrete one. And we support these wonderful councils through two cross-cutting activities where we have our SME platform, because these are really where frontier technologies are proven and brought into life. And we have our biomanufacturing platform, because this is a way that we can bring biotechnology to a vastly wider audience. If we start from the product back, we can open more doors than starting from the technology forward when we talk about it. So many people don't know how much biotechnology already impacts on their lives, from the medicines they take to the washing detergents that they use. This is all about understanding how much biotech already does. So we have an amazing community. We have our main corporate members. You will hear from some of them later. These guys are the ones that really produce the products and the processes that you use in your lives, be it as a patient or as a consumer. And so these are the people who really are developing the technologies through to market. And we, as you know, we work across all sectors. So we have pharmaceutical companies, we have industrial biotechnology companies. These ones do the heavy lifting on how we create biotechnology into products. We then have our national associations, including our beloved Magda, who works so hard to champion and represent Polish biotechnology. It is you guys that show us what this looks like on the ground, how many people you employ, how much infrastructure you can develop, how you create the products from biotechnology, because We can talk about this at a European level, but the work is done at national level. And finally, we have an amazing collection of associate members, and these guys include the small companies who are really bringing the innovation into reality for the first time. And we also have the many excellent service providers without whom these small companies in particular would not be able to work. So I'm now going to talk about, I promise I don't have many facts and figures, but I think it's really important to talk about the role that biotechnology already has. People often talk about biotechnology as an emerging sector, a sector with potential. But what we need to remember is that biotechnology has been delivering at a significant economic level for many decades already. So we work with the Weifel Institute in Germany to measure the economic impact of biotechnology. And that can be quite tricky because all of healthcare is not biotechnology. All of food manufacturing is not biotechnology. We need to look into each sector and understand the economic footprint that biotech has within it. And you will see that it's very impressive, particularly when compared to European averages, which really shows you that this is the foundation of a next generation economy and a knowledge-driven economy. It's always important to remember that. So when we look at gross value added, which is the value that is brought to a product after the cost of the inputs, you see that biotechnology products and processes add 52% more than the EU average. When we look at employment, biotechnology employment has grown 7 times as fast as the EU average, and that's an incredibly important thing to remember. When we talk about exports, we see a very significant export base linked to biotechnology from Europe, nearly 50 billion euros, growing almost twice as fast as the EU average. And these numbers that we have just stopped at 2021. We were only just starting to see the impact of COVID vaccine manufacturing within Europe. We expect these numbers to go up really significantly. And so not only does healthcare biotechnology have a very significant impact, but we see industrial biotechnology applied into manufacturing processes and products across all sectors having an increasingly important role. Because industrial biotechnology is the future of manufacturing. As we shift towards our Green Deal priorities, you see biomanufacturing and industrial biotechnology replacing many petrochemical-driven processes, and you will see this happen increasingly. So when we talk about biotechnology, it is not an emerging technology, it is an arrived technology. Our challenge is now to make it arrive to the same scale as it is arriving everywhere else. So I will bring you back into focus. We've already discussed a little bit today its role on the big stage of deep tech, if you want to use a word to cover it all. But biotechnology has been identified as one of the 4 critical technologies for Europe's economic security. It sits alongside semiconductors, AI, quantum computing. It is one of the big ones, and it's incredibly important that we make the most of it. It has had a significant EU policy focus in the last year, 2 years, and this is very important for us to connect the high-level policy rhetoric with the reality of how you make biotechnology actually work, and for that we use legislation. And you will know that we sit in a very changing world geopolitically, and it's going to continue changing. So you will see more protectionism at global level, so it's incredibly important that Europe can serve itself as much as possible and be a strong player within global markets. And when I talk about global markets, the world is not sitting back as biotechnology is recognized as such a critical tool. We see strategies, funded policies, we see initiatives, we see tax programs being set up all over the world to ensure that biotechnology is a stronger economic force in lots of different territories. And the key thing for Europe is that it has to keep up with this. It's a little bit slow to the game. Even though it has amazing science, and we've always known that, it's incredibly important that Europe consolidates its position globally as for biotechnology as an economic platform. Because the winners of this race, as we change manufacturing processes on a large scale from petrochemical into biotechnology, the winners of this race will really control global supply chains and will really be able to be very strong in international discussions about who gets what products, when, and in what order. So it's incredibly important here that Europe has skin in the game. So why does legislation matter for you? When I started my career a pretty long time ago, I was very passionate about biotechnology as a science. And then I started to work with companies and understood that it's not just the science, it's the pathway that it takes to market. The decisions that get made around the development and scale up and successful sale of products are often nothing to do with the science and everything to do with the pathway that it must take to its market or its target audience. And legislation is a core part of that. It is the circuit board underneath the ambition. Through legislation, it will tell you how your science and your innovation will reach market, if it can reach market at all. And it will also tell you where it reaches market. And that's something that Europe has to work on very hard. And yet legislation for biotechnology is co-created, to use a very fashionable term. It's not something that happens just in the mists of the top level of the European Union. It is a co-creation process, and the Polish government is right in the middle of this all the way through the European Parliament and your MEPs and through your national government. So at no point are you disconnected from the legislative process, and it's very important that you play a role in ensuring that it's correct for your innovation. I'm going to take two examples here of current legislative files that are underway and that keep us really, really busy in EuropaBio. We have the general pharmaceutical legislation, and you will probably hear more from that from Novartis a little bit later. This is the largest reorganizing and reshaping of legislation for pharmaceuticals and biotechnology in 20-25 years. It will dictate for the next 20-25 years how you approach market and how your innovation can be taken forward. And it has the very worthy aim of bringing more healthcare to more people. We all agree with this. But within the legislation, it brings the tools with which they would like to achieve this. And some of those tools in particular are not innovation friendly and will probably have the opposite effect of what the Commission would like to achieve. So for example, the proposal is to change the level of regulatory data protection that is applied to a novel product when it receives medicine's approval, which means that you have less time to make your money back on your innovative product before others can make use of that data to bring alternative products to market, which means that the value of your product has probably just gone down, and it will be harder for you to seek investment because biotechnology in particular, it's high risk, it's slow, it's going into uncharted territories, particularly when we talk about rare diseases and other areas such as that, in that you already have a large story to sell. You have got to persuade somebody to give you money for something that is difficult, may fail, and may take a long time to get to market. That just got a little bit harder with a reduction in regulatory data protection. So it's incredibly important that you are aware of this, because this is coming down the line for your innovation. The other example that I will use is the restrictions in orphan market exclusivity. Again, rare diseases, an incredibly difficult market to reach because it's rare for a reason. There's not many people in it. So you need to understand that as your restrictions are placed on your exclusivity for your probably very hard to developed product, is that it will become harder to develop that, because as it has less time to make its money back when it hits the market, it becomes less interesting to investors. So these are conversations and battles that we are having right now for biotechnology. We have it at European level and we have it at national level because of the co-creation process in legislation. The other example I will use is looking at plants with the new genome techniques legislation that is emerging. This is younger than the general pharmaceutical legislation. It is earlier in its pathway, but it will have a significant impact on biotechnology, whether you work in plants or not. So we follow this because we are very passionate about microorganisms in EuropaBio. They are the future of manufacturing. We talk about fermentation, precision fermentation, alternate proteins, cultured meats. This is where you start to see the impact of legislation such as this coming into play. We have a current legislative proposal on the table. However, it has stalled. There is a lot of disagreement at both European and national level about how this should progress, which means that it's not going to progress quickly, which means that other regions of the world are progressing more quickly with more favourable regimes for these amazing NGT technologies. And it also has introduced specific risks to innovation, including items such as a patent ban. These all impact you whether you work in plants or not, because it will shape what your future landscape looks like. And your voice is very important. We have European elections coming up. It's very important that you look at who is going to represent your technology and your innovation within the European Parliament, because they will speak for you for the next legislative term. So I come from a country originally that didn't pay a lot of attention to what happened at Europe, and it paid a very significant price. So I am now a very proud Belgian, and I am very happy to say that. But it's also what happens in the European Parliament is not distant, it's near. These people are your representatives in the legislative process, and you can be very careful what you wish for, because if it comes true, you may regret it very much indeed. But let us speak of more cheerful things, apart from you going to vote in the European elections. Just in time for this conference, and I'm sure it was perfectly timed, organised between Magda and the European Commission, we saw last week the announcement of an initiative to support biotechnology and biomanufacturing in Europe. This is very significant. Europe, I think, it has supported biotechnology in slightly different ways for a very long time, but it hasn't supported it coherently all in one place. And looking at what has come out of different global regions, particularly the US, with its executive order on biomanufacturing, Europe has now understood that it needs to look at this in a more coherent way and look at where the key bottlenecks are in bringing technology to the market at scale, sufficient scale to make a difference, to make enough money, to build regional development, to build clusters, to bring significant global investment into Europe. Because without that, we lack the capacity, or we will lack the capacity, to respond to future healthcare crises, to respond to changes in global food supply chains. We must have that capacity, and it will come through biotechnology. So this is an announced initiative that addresses, and we are very pleased to see, it recognises a lot of the key weak spots for biotechnology as an industry to grow. It looks at regulatory fragmentation, because it's not about what just goes in your legislation, it's how you then enable it. If it takes you 7 years to get to market with something that takes 2 years in the US, you are going to go to the US, regardless of how great the legislation looks on paper. It looks at access to finance, because we know that Europe's capital market is not as strong as other regions. It looks at value chain obstacles, and this is often where you see the ping pong between the EU and national level processes that can really slow things down. And of course, informed public recognition of what biotechnology does. EuropaBio is a big fan of calling it by its name, telling people what it does, explaining why it's important, because Europe's policymakers are often very sensitive about biotechnology, and they should not be. They should be championing. The initiative has a number of really good ideas in it, although at the moment it is a non-legislative document, so it has no guarantee that it will be taken up in the new commission. It has no money attached to it. Again, we need to make sure that budget is attached, and it requires a commitment from the incoming European Commission after the elections this year. And it's our mission this year to make sure that it has full legislative commitment, it has full funding, and that it has champions at both national and European level. So, I totally forgot to change my slide so you could actually see what was in the initiative. I will give you a moment to catch up with what I just talked through. But you will see that there are lots of good ideas in it. We love regulatory sandboxes because it means that we can regulate as we innovate rather than regulating first and then worrying why the innovation has not arrived. It talks about skills development. It talks about changing some of the frameworks that biotechnology has to travel through that were developed for a previous era of technologies. Biotechnology is impacted greatly by regulatory frameworks that were developed for petrochemicals. And it's an entirely different substance. So it needs its own dedicated frameworks so that it can progress really quickly. And we're really happy to see that there are a number of proposals within the initiative that allow us to do this for the first time. So this is where I come to you guys as our Polish representatives within EuropaBio, we need you, and your voices really count. In the first half of 2025, Poland will have the presidency of the Council of the European Union. This is a 6-month gig, and it will put you on the front line, up on the stage, in front of all of Europe, and it's our opportunity for Poland to champion how biotechnology is delivered. Poland has a job to do during this presidency. It will help decide what legislative priorities are taken up for the first 6 months of 2025. It will broker agreements, which I'm sure you will understand take a huge amount of skill at European level, as there are many voices to try and bring agreement together. It will coordinate across member states for legislative files, and I have big stars on my notes here, it will allow you to focus on topics of national interest. So, what's on the list for the Polish presidency when it comes to biotechnology? We, of course, have the general pharmaceutical legislation, and it will be coming to maturation. It will be coming to its final phases of development during your presidency. So this is a very significant opportunity to ensure that it properly allows and enables innovation through biotechnology. We will also have new genome techniques legislation still going, hopefully less stalled than it is now, because it's incredibly important that that progresses quickly so our industry can invest in next generation manufacturing. And potentially, and what it should have, of course, and here I look at you guys, it should have the Biotech and Biomanufacturing Initiative recognised within legislative priorities. And this is where Poland can help make that happen. So currently, Belgium hosts the presidency, I'm very pleased to say. So it has moved key legislative files for biotechnology. And I really want to say, if Belgium can do this, anybody can do this. We work across 3 different languages. We work across the slowest election cycle you could possibly imagine. If Belgium can make it work, you can make it work. So I have big expectations for you here. So it has moved very significant files for biotechnology, and it had a very significant focus on biotech as part of its own national priorities. And it has been fairly instrumental in how the Biotech and Biomanufacturing Initiative was developed. So this means that you can also do the same during the Polish presidency. A couple of examples of the priorities from Belgium is it wants to strengthen competitiveness. And you will see this a lot in the next Commission. It is going to be all about competitiveness as Europe sees other areas of the world pulling ahead in strategic technologies. We can already name the sectors that we've kind of kissed goodbye to in terms of whether we do them or whether we just buy them from other people. And it's incredibly important that biotechnology is not one of those. It's also had a big focus on the green transition. And again, biotechnology plays a key role here. And so I will leave you with my final slide is to what will the Polish presidency be like in 2025? And we will see you there for sure. For your healthcare biotechnology, you already have very strong biosimilars manufacturing. Make sure that you can bring the innovation through for novel products alongside that. It's incredibly important that you continue to build value through innovation. We saw the stats, the financial stats earlier that tell you how much it is worth for a country to be involved and really selling its innovation. So enable your small novel medicines generators to grow up alongside your biosimilars industry. It is not a competition. You should grow in parallel. You should also become a significant biomanufacturing hub. You are a really big country with amazing access to natural resources. You have a significant manufacturing base. Look at what the biomanufacturing transition could help you achieve. If you can transition your industrial processes into next generation biomanufacturing, you could be the lead country within Europe because you have the scale and you have the resources to do so. And for this, help raise your EU voice. Make it loud, make it heard, because this is your opportunity to help guide what the Polish presidency will bring. And the Polish government will decide on its priorities soon. People start preparing for presidencies years in advance. You have a new government, it's preparing now. It's incredibly important that you talk to them to make sure that biotechnology is reflected in their priorities. We will be working with our company members and Magda and the amazing association here to ensure that the presidency really recognises what biotechnology can do. So come and talk to me about this, come and talk to our members about this. We will be bringing our National Associations Council Presidency Summit here next year during your presidency, because it's an opportunity to bring the eyes of Europe to Poland and for you to lead the biotechnology conversation. So with that, I will stop, and thank you very much indeed for the invitation.
Claire Skentelbery, thank you very much. Claire, stay with us for a moment, because that's not the end of unrehearsed questions for today. Thank you, first of all, for the wonderful energy and enthusiasm you gave us. No pressure, ladies and gentlemen, but it's expected to set the tone for the entirety of the conference.
No pressure.
No pressure. And I love the subtlety of your Brexit reference. Well, you may have heard the saying, I promise you, it will take a while to digest it, understand it, but there is an anonymous proverb on the internet. It says, you can't change the people around you, but you can change the people around you, which is one way of saying that you can move to Belgium. Now, quick question. You made a couple of references indirectly, but if you were to isolate the single most important bottleneck of European biotech industry now, what would that be? And consequently, the most promising aspect of current developments, what Europe can be most proud of in the current biotech ecosystem. So one for each.
I would say the most important thing is valuing innovation, and that can come out in a lot of different ways. We talked about the RDP, the regulatory data protection. That is a value upon innovation. We talked about the orphan market exclusivity. That is a value on innovation. If you reduce those values, you will not be able to develop your science. And biotechnology, because it takes a long time to develop and it needs a significant critical mass of skills, it needs this baseline of innovation protection in order to attract investment, to allow companies to grow, to develop the skilled service providers around them. Europe's biotechnology clusters would not exist today without those types of protection. And it's a very fundamental baseline. It can get round lots of other issues, but if the baseline isn't there, people will go somewhere else to develop their innovation.
And on the most promising side of things, what do you love most about Europe and biotech?
How long have I got? What I love most about Europe and biotech is that it looks at it in a cross-border way. For me, there should be no borders to science at all. Science, people, products, processes, we make this together, and we all build from each other's strengths. So that's what Europe, for me, brings to science, is the critical mass and the recognition that this is a next-generation technology. And I always end with a Star Trek reference.
Well, I'm glad to point out that at least for some institutions out there, we have the right people in the right place. Thank you very much, Claire.
Thank you.
Thank you.